In August of 1922, at a secluded resort near Bridgman, Michigan, law enforcement officers raided a meeting of the top leaders of the Communist Party of America. Hundreds of secret documents were seized. One of the most revealing of these was a directive from Moscow, signed by members of the Executive Committee of the Communist International. In this document, it was firmly established that the Communist Party of America was not independent, but merely a branch of the international organization under firm control of the Soviets. The directive said, "The ruling of the Communist International must be accepted as obligating every member of the Communist Party of America, minority or majority." Another important document was written by the American communists themselves. It said, "The great mass of the working class cannot be formed into organizations consciously under the control of the communists. The communists, therefore, are compelled to function as an underground party. The Communist Party is obliged to penetrate all existing working class and semi-working class organizations to reach the masses, using these organizations as tools and auxiliaries of the Communist Party." The directive made clear that under favorable circumstances, it would be desirable to allow the Communist Party to come out in the open and to appear as a political party. But then it said, "Even though the Communist Party shall have come above ground, the underground organization remains as the directing organ of the open Communist Party." It's important to realize that the open Communist Party, which offers candidates for public office, is not the real organizational force of the movement. It is merely one of the multitude of surface organizations designed to lead the masses. In some countries, such as France and Italy, where communism is viewed merely as a popular political movement, this may be a major channel of mass influence. But in countries such as West Germany, England, or the United States, where the communist label is not popular, it is through the other surface organizations that the underground seeks control of the masses, while the visible communist apparatus serves as a decoy to lull the electorate into believing that the movement is small and harmless. Manipulation of the public is an important part of communist strategy, but the second and equally important objective is paralysis of the target government. For this to be accomplished, it is necessary for the underground to infiltrate into the government itself.
I was one of the editors of the Student Review, which was a more or less it was a communist-controlled student paper, and Edmund Stevens.
Nathaniel Weil joined the Communist Party at Harvard in 1932 after becoming convinced that capitalism was doomed and that the only other alternatives were communism or fascism. Shortly afterward, he obtained employment under the Roosevelt administration in the Department of Agriculture.
After I had been at the job for about a year, when I was 23, I received a telephone call from a voice which simply identified itself as Hal from New York. And Hal asked me to meet him at a restaurant in a part of town which government officials did not frequent. I inferred, of course, that Hal represented the Communist Party. And he told me that his name was Hal Ware. He said the decision has been taken to organize a special secret cell of communists who will be totally separated from the party and will include only those people who are believed to have a big future in the government of the United States. This unit will be under the direct control of the Communist International, and you will have nothing to do with the Communist Party or any member of it. We were under no circumstances to engage in communistic talk. We were not to indoctrinate anybody, and we were not to try to recruit anybody.
A lie on that is not considered a lie. Tell us some of your activities when you were a card-carrying member.
Well, I think they're the usual activities for a communist member, participating in picket lines.
In November of 1945, Elizabeth Bentley revealed to the FBI that for 11 years she had served as an espionage courier between an agent from the Soviet Union and members of the American Underground Organization, most of whom held key positions within the United States government. When she was assigned this position, she was told to destroy her party card and any other documentation that might prove she was a member of the party. In her book entitled Out of Bondage, she describes the instructions of the Soviet agent. He said, "You are now no longer an ordinary communist, but a member of the underground. You must cut yourself off completely from all your old communist friends. You cannot even be known as a liberal and move in progressive circles. Instead, you must pose as an ultra-conservative with a slight leaning toward fascism." Larry Grathwohl became a member of the Weather Underground organization in 1969 as an undercover operative for law enforcement agencies in Ohio. Before breaking away and testifying in 1970, he had risen to the rank of courier and carried directives from the Central Committee to the operating units within various cities. After explaining how the Weather Underground serves the purposes of the Soviet Union with control exerted through Cuba, he then explained the importance of what are called sleepers in the Soviet underground.
However, I can tell you that while I was with the Weathermen, we had certain people that were recruited out of universities that were not allowed to attend meetings, that were dealt with on an individual basis by the person that recruited them. And the idea was for this person's record to be absolutely clean so that he or she could work themselves into key positions of authority and responsibility, and therefore be able to do a lot of damage at the right time. Obviously, it would be best if they were in the government somewhere, but or in public utilities. But really, it was sort of like you go on and make your career as best you can, and when the time comes, we'll let you know. So this person could be a vice president or a president of a corporation, multinational or otherwise. Primarily, it was to keep them out of the limelight and keep their records clean. Law enforcement was an area they'd like some of them to get into.
As a result of the testimony of scores of individuals from within the communist movement, we're able to get a clear picture of one of the most important components of the underground structure. This is the elite corps, the moles in high places. They have special assignments that require deep cover, and they're considered too valuable to risk being exposed, even to the rank and file of dedicated communists who themselves may belong to other parts of the underground. The important question, of course, is to what extent has this communist underground been successful? Now, it's not our purpose here to examine that part of the organization which concerns itself with mass action, nor shall we analyze the history of subversion by bribery, blackmail, or terrorism. But the subversion of government from within government is a gigantic subject by itself, and it is to that history that we shall turn our attention.